All right, well, welcome everyone to the March 6, 2024 meeting of the Town Administrator Search Committee. In following provisions for open meeting law, our typical chair, Pat Mahar, is participating remotely. The rest of the committee is in person. So for this meeting only, I shall be acting as chair as I'm in the room and Pat is remote. So just want to be upfront with that so that people are aware that we have addressed that issue in case there are any questions. So we are going to review meeting minutes from the last meeting, which I was not at.
Very nice.
Review them or
Right? Approve, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so someone would need to make. They should have been sent.
I didn't receive them.
I sent them.
Okay.
The meeting minutes?
Do we have enough people that received them and reviewed them in order to
I didn't.
vote?
I don't.
When did they?
I want to make, but I don't believe it.
Okay. If we need to, we can postpone that to our next meeting.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Sent them out on the 29th, along with the agenda.
Yep.
No, there are.
Okay.
I didn't review.
And obviously, if you weren't there, like Kevin wasn't there, so there's no vote from.
Can I make a motion to put this off
Yep.
to the next meeting until we've had time to review?
Absolutely. Yep. So we have a motion.
Second.
Second. And also because we have one member participating remotely, all of our votes need to be roll call, which means they need to be individual votes.
Okay.
Kevin says aye.
Roger Shores, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye.
Ellen Blanchard, aye.
Mark Dufley, aye.
Craig Weston, aye.
Pat Maher, aye.
Great. Thank you. Sorry, my device is not connecting and opening the agenda for me. I don't have a paper copy. Do you have a paper copy? Thank you, Craig. So sorry. Thank you. I appreciate
This
it.
I did get.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. We skipped right over the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, we did.
So could everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I apologize.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a visitor.
Yes.
Okay, so at this,
What do they have?
far too many.
Yes.
At this point of the meeting, I would like to welcome the consultant, Rick White, that is going to be assisting us with the search for a town administrator. So welcome. Look forward to hearing all of the great things that you have to offer.
Just
Oh, are you all set to begin?
What would you like me to, do you want to start with the questions?
Sure. I wasn't sure if you wanted to do an introduction or if you just want to get right into review and selecting the
Well, I've been here before.
Okay.
So, do I need to introduce myself to anybody?
You already did.
All right.
Okay. I wasn't at the last meeting.
So, my name is Rick White. I'm a principal in the firm of Grew White Consulting. We've been in existence since 1994. Done several hundred searches throughout Massachusetts mostly. And I'm now doing this one. During the last 2 weeks or so, Patrick, in his role as chair, sent you all a copy of 63 sample questions and asked you to come up with 2 to be considered, to consider asking candidates in the screening interviews. And Patrick received 9, but didn't receive questions from everybody. So I thought maybe we could just go through them to see if we're all comfortable with the questions and whether or not you want to spend your hour asking these questions with each candidate.
Okay, that would be great.
Having a question that allows the candidate to warm up a little bit, that's sort of easy on them, so that you can get to know them when you really pressure them for questions, is important. So I thought we could take the 3rd question that's on here, add to it that says, tell us a little something about yourself, your professional background, what brings you to Carver, and why you're leaving your current position, and what is it about Carver that interests you. That'll give the candidate a couple of minutes to just freewheel. It's not a heavy duty question, but it should get them to relax a little bit, because all of the candidates are nervous meeting people for the first time. And, you know, they want to put their best foot forward. What would your first 100 days as town administrator look like, is a classic question. If you still want to ask that. The next question, I think, is unique to Carver. Is there a so-called deep state within Town Hall, and how would you deal with it?
Exactly.
I think most of the candidates are going to want to ask you to define deep state a little bit. And, you know, when I read it, having been a manager for 40 years, worked in a number of communities, my first job was always to try to get to understand the community and what made it tick and what were there. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I'd call the pilgrims, the people that have been in town for a considerable amount of time, are invested in it. They may not be active in town, but they're a force.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, through the chair. Just as a question, just to clarify. I know you were discussing questions. Are these supposed to be in executive session?
You can't.
Okay, I couldn't remember what the rule was for that.
No, anything that isn't candidate related has to be in public.
So the questions will, the questions of potential candidates will be allowed to see what the questions are.
Potential candidates, if they're ingenious and go through your recordings, can get a sense for what the questions are, yeah.
Okay. All right, I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Nope. Thank you for asking that question.
Sure. So, I mean, whoever asked the question, you know, the deep state, I think if we could drill down on that a little bit, the deep state, to help the candidates answer it.
That was actually, that was my question, or one of my questions, and it was just more or less to see how a candidate would deal. Maybe the deep state was wrong, not so great a term, but more like cultural aspects of any town hall. We're going to have a culture that's going to develop. And, you know, sometimes it's good, sometimes parts of it are not so good. So how would a candidate try to, you know, identify and work within the culture?
I'm trying to figure out which document they're going to let you know when
So,
Can I just ask real quick, is there a document where these are, I don't believe I saw all the questions.
Patrick sent you all a copy.
You did.
Actually, I only sent it to you, Rick. I didn't send it to everybody.
So
My fault.
I'm not aware of.
I was just
Right.
waiting for something to
Oh,
download, so.
I'm sorry. I was under the impression that you got it. Maybe we could,
Yep.
two of them came off in the printing, so,
I couldn't remember that. I swore. I remember having this discussion before other ones. Is what it is?
I was waiting for something to download to see if it was in there so I could tell you where it was located.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you were correct. Thank you very much for doing that.
thank you, Nancy.
Appreciated.
Yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
that's what it is. That's what it is. Agreed.
There are two questions that get cut off after I print that. I didn't look at it. I just printed it quickly before I left, but
Okay.
thank you, sir. Thank you for doing this. So, just to go back, the third question is something I thought you could start off
That's what people
with,
submitted was for.
would tell us a little something about yourself. And I will redo these tonight and get them to Patrick, who will get them to you.
Okay.
The second question would be, and I'll tease it out a little bit, what would your first 100 days in Carver look like? And then, is there, how do you identify the culture in an organization? How do you make an assessment as to whether it works or not?
Yeah, good.
And how do you make changes to the culture if you believe that a change is required? Is that
Yep,
okay?
that's good. Good wording.
And Patrick and I talk a couple of times a day. So I will rework this with him tomorrow. It's his question. So the object of this is to ask a set number of questions to each of the candidates, but not ask them so many questions that you can't do follow-up. You want to have a set questions that you ask to every candidate so that you can evaluate them based on common evaluation points. But each candidate is going to give you something different, and you're going to want to seize on what they say and ask them a follow-up question. So if you ask between 8 and 9 questions in an hour, there should be plenty of times for you to interject after a question and ask a follow-up question and have a dialogue. It's important to have a good blend of both. You want to see what the person's like, what their dynamic is going to be like, and whether or not they can give and take. How do they react to being challenged or asked a tough question? But you don't want to have so many questions that you don't give yourself enough flexibility to ask follow-up questions. I will say, though, that if you're not committed to asking follow-up questions, then you should ask more questions, because some candidates will answer very briefly and other candidates won't. If you only have a set number of questions and you don't have any more, your interview could be over in 40 minutes as opposed to an hour. And you have to commit yourself to listening carefully, looking for telltale issues for you, and ask follow-up questions. And the best interviews are generated by you and the follow-up questions, in my experience. So, I don't mean to lecture you, but.
Is this structured in any way such that we all have specific number of questions we're required to ask? Or is it go round robin like that, or is it more? Because I assume anybody can ask a follow-up. Yeah.
Anybody can ask a follow-up. Patrick and I will develop a list of master questions that we'll get to you.
Yeah.
I suspect if you have any interest in asking a specific question, if you could let Patrick know, we can, we can assign it to you. But otherwise, I think he'll assign you a question. And the best interviews are such that, I mean, there are a lot of consultants that will ask all the questions. They're not dating me, they're dating you. So, I think the rotating questions and the dynamic between you and the candidates is important. So I think rotating the questions is what you want to do.
Yeah, that's good. Let me ask you a question, Rick. In other types of these types of interviews that I've done, we've given the candidate first thing they do is asked to make an introductory statement.
Yep.
Which can be similar to one of the questions like tell us about yourself, right, or whatever. So that may take that one. And then at the end, we ask them to do a final statement.
A summary.
Yeah. So those two could be, take up some of the questions. Okay. But I've always liked that approach too. It's just first thing is, so tell us about yourself. What would you like us to know? And put it on them, and then as a follow-up, and they say, okay, now give us some words you want to leave us with.
Okay, I can do that.
Would it make sense through the chair to have yourself and Pat to develop the master questions and have our committee, if you have a question or two you want to add, to send it. But it'd be nice to see what the master questions are, maybe, and then to know if.
Sure. I will have this done by tomorrow and talk to Patrick, and you'll have it by the weekend. And plenty of time to, fool around with it.
Yeah.
And if we come in a little early for whatever the interview is and just talk a little bit, if there's any issues that need to be resolved.
I mean, I had submitted some questions, and they were very kind of specific, so they'll know they're from me. But and that wasn't my intent. My intent isn't to tell what people said. I just it might be better and better entertain if you come up with the master questions, and then we can massage it from there real quickly. And you might have a question, and you might have. But I didn't see this one asked, so I don't want to see the person just ask these four and go that had no relation to anyone else.
Well, there's three ahead of them, so that's about seven.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think definitely you can do a better job at massaging them than I did.
We can, although, Chief, I was actually happy to see the questions that you put together here.
No, I get it.
Because the public safety and the EMS and the police are such, in the way you go about doing it, are so unique and so foundational to what Carver's about. You want to ask those questions. Mm-hmm. So it didn't surprise me when I saw it.
No, I just think there should be more massaging that, representing other people. That's all it was.
We can do that. So.
Patrick? Yeah, I think it's important that every member of the committee, voice some kind of either question or subject matter that they would like to see the candidate respond to. And then that way we get a diverse group here. We get questions from all kinds of different angles, and I think that gives a well-rounded set of questions for any candidate to answer, and several different subjects. And then, the follow-up. Sometimes the follow-ups, those are kind of ad lib kind of things sometimes.
Oh,
You hear a question answer, you say, oh yeah, I need to find out more about that. So one of the follow-ups can be, can you expand on that aspect a little bit more? So that's some of those follow-ups we're not even going to know yet until we get there.
So the next question the chief has asked Patrick and I to massage a little bit and get back to you, but it's please discuss your philosophy, management style when working with public safety departments. Do you have any experience as town administrator or manager working with an on-call fire department and a town-run third ambulance EMS? Please tell the committee what you know about Carver's public safety, police, fire, EMS, and emergency management departments. And based on your knowledge of Carver public safety, do you have any idea on how we might improve these systems? We can work and massage the questions. The one thing I would do so that you don't shut down the candidate is on to add something like, it's okay if you haven't had any experience with call fire departments, or call services, but please tell us how you would assimilate yourself and celebrate what we have here in Carver, because that's what your issue is. You want to make sure that they respect it, understand it, support it, and see the beauty of it. Okay. So the next question, Carver has a major 150 megawatt battery storage facility project on the horizon. What might be some examples of how you would secure needed town revenue for our community from this project? How might you manage this new revenue stream? It's pretty specific. Is there some place is there some information about this? Because I did a pretty deep dive on Carver and I didn't know about this. Is there somewhere that I could direct the candidates to that they could get a better understanding of the project?
I would probably direct it to the town planner.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll talk to the town planner tomorrow and get some
that's what I would say.
Okay. Explain your experience with capital budgets and capital plans and examples of one you might create and fund. Explain your experience with capital and budgets and plans and examples of one you might create and fund one for the town of Carver. Patrick and I can rework that question. The next question, I would edit it a little bit and start it off more of an assessment, and I would ask the candidates to let us know, based on their research, their assessments of the town's financial conditions. And based on that, could you provide us with some examples of creative revenue stream ideas you might ask the town to consider to increase funding for operating and capital improvements? Does that, you see how a little bit more explorative the question is?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Because this will give you a sense of how much homework the candidates have done, whether they've looked at your financials, whether they have thought creatively about what they would do if they came here, and what opportunities are here. So The next questions, I have to go to my phone to read because they're not on there. But and the next one is very important. Carver is considered an active agricultural community. How will you balance preserving agriculture while preventing their lost property rights in the process? Place is all about cranberries. It's got an incredible culture. I think we could clean up some of the language in the question. Also, the next one is how can we provide affordable housing for our future generations while preserving the agricultural character of the community? Which, you know, will just require them to take a look at your housing plan and take a look at what your projects are. The one area of questions that aren't covered, that in me talking to people about Carver, is the very strong partnership that you have between the municipal and the school side. And everybody's desire to continue to preserve that relationship.
100%.
So I'm thinking that one question you might want to consider is, you know, talking about that relationship and asking them what they would bring to the table in preserving that, and give us some examples of what they've done in other places they've been that would give us some sense of confidence that that would happen if they came. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the relationship between the town and the school is in a better place than it's been for, you know, in previous years in our
always
history.
like that.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying is it was not always. So I think everyone that's, you know, that's here now is committed to maintaining that. So I think that's appropriate to explore.
So Patrick and I will take this and do a master list, and Patrick will send it out to you over the weekend.
Yep.
And if you have feedback, you can let him know.
Yeah, because I did see a question in the candidate interview questions. This is a document. It must have been from 2021, and there is a question in here regarding that, but it's stating how would you make it a better working relationship. So this was prior to the shift, but I think that's important for the entire community to know how someone would balance that.
I would just suggest too, the last search committee we did do a pretty exhaustive question. I think you should have passed that out. I think it went out to...
It did, yeah, everybody got it.
And I just probably asked through you that the committee relook at them, because there were some questions in there that might help you quite a bit.
Yeah, these are, a lot of these are very detailed and very extensive, so.
And again, when we did that, I think we decided when we did that last committee, we picked which ones we wanted to answer. So if you look at them all, there's probably 30 of them there.
Yep.
And I think we probably picked like 10 of them, and we made sure those are the same 10 we offered every time.
Yep.
But I mean, not to just rehash, I mean, you might just relook at those. There might be something you can grab, that because there was a lot of work put into those.
Right, yeah, like, I love number 20. I think number 20 is really great. Describe your management style working with select board, town boards, commissions, department heads, town employees, school administration, and the school committee. Why do you think your style works? What management style do you employ in emergency stressful situations? What kind of feedback do you receive from others regarding your management style? How would you resolve a conflict between a department head not agreeing or following your direction or approach to an assigned project? So, I mean, clearly that's multi-level, but something along those lines. So,
well, I don't have those questions, but Patrick will give them to me when we talk tomorrow. But
and I can parse it out and send it to you in an email, because I mean, I think it could be, you know, tweaked a little bit. But
if again, we need to develop a finite number of questions.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if you come early, then for 10 minutes you can talk about which ones you're going to ask.
Okay.
Does that work, Patrick?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. And the next thing we were hoping is that you could set aside the 14th at 5 o'clock for an interview night and the 16th, which is, the 14th is a Thursday, and the 16th is a Saturday. The interviews on the 14th, the police chief has generously offered his home for us to interview. I think it's important that we get these candidates away from town hall so we can protect their confidentiality. And on the 16th, we'd do it at the fire station if everybody can make it.
What time on the 16th?
I'm game for as early as 8 or 9. It just depends on you guys.
I do have I'm at a conference those 3 days, the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Not in the morning on the 14th. I can do the morning.
I can't do anything during the day, during the week. I'm okay for the weekends, but I got a full-time gig.
Okay, what time are we thinking for the meeting on the 14th?
Well, the 14th, you were saying 4
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock? Okay, sorry.
I can do that.
Would you be able to maybe zoom in on the 14th at 5 o'clock?
Well, I won't be local.
Right. Like, do you have a laptop or an iPad that you would bring with you that you could potentially zoom in with?
I really can't. I do
Okay.
have a laptop that I can Zoom, but
Yep.
I can't.
From this?
I am committed to this conference.
We unfortunately have this
We have a very short window.
short window.
Can we do the
Yeah,
13th?
very,
I got to give the candidates some notice.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it would be a week, it's a week from tomorrow.
That's basically something I've been committed to since.
yeah, well, you know, we're gonna run into these kind of things, just like tonight, everybody couldn't make it. There's,
Yep.
with this number of people, it's gonna be difficult to find, you know, unanimous times to do this. So what I try to do is look at when can most of the people make it?
Yep.
And that's what we have to go with.
I can do.
Can everyone
And-
else make
and
the
we-
14th at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
I can do Thursday
Yes.
evening and Saturday. I
Okay.
can do those.
I can do.
I'm available both days.
And what time do you want to start on Saturday? 9? 8 might be a little early.
Yeah.
Right.
9 works.
That'll get you out
9
of here by
o'clock?
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Now, the other thing we want to talk about too is we're going to have, say, 8 recommendations, and we're going to talk about those in executive session. But, you know, if a hopeful assumption would be that on these 2 dates we can get all the interviews in, and then we wouldn't have to go another day. On the other hand, we may have to go into the following week, like a Tuesday at 5 o'clock or something, to finish off those that couldn't make it. Don't forget, we're dealing with current, town administrators, assistant town administrators, and so forth that are out there. They're working, they've got their full-time jobs, they're in the middle of budgets like we are, and they've got all kinds of meetings going on too. So try as we may, and we've run into this before where somebody couldn't make a certain day, but could make others. So, and then the other side of that is going to be, once all the interviews are done, and we'll defer to you, Rick, as to what is going to be the process for selecting, and what I was at the select board meeting last night to go over our charge, because our charge says that we must provide 4 candidates to the select board. And I thought that was a little too restrictive. We dealt with that last time, and what we did was say we're going to have a minimum of 4. So it's more than 3. They're a little gun shy about 3. So it's a minimum of 4. But if we just say you must have 4, we can't do 3, we can't do 5, we can't do 6. It must be 4. So it's going to be, they changed it and voted on it. It's going to be a minimum of 4. And then on the other hand, because of the, and again, it's a very aggressive schedule. They wanted to have these 4 by March 12th in their original charge. And I said, well, that's not a practical date either. I said and I talked to Rick about this, and I said, the outside best we can do is going to be March 27th, on or before, or let's say by the 27th, that we would finalize and have however many, minimum of 4 candidates to the select board. So when we finish the interviews, Rick, what would we look at for a process of selecting who we thought worthy of moving on?
Well, generally what I do, it depends on the group. I don't believe in mathematical evaluations. I think you can rig them just as easily as you can a subjective, I want him or her. So generally what I give each committee member a piece of paper with all the candidates' name on them and ask them to check who they want to interview on the paper of the 8 that you'd interview. We'd compile them, we'd see where there was some commonality, and then it's a lot easier to deal with the differences and have a conversation about, you know, how someone might see one candidate and others don't see it that way, to come to the final conclusion. And generally, that discussion in and of itself helps the committee formulate their feelings about the finalists and the candidates. That's generally the way it works.
Yeah. Now, would you do that as an additional meeting after the interviews, or
if you're
would
up
you look
for
at
it,
that?
it could take less than 45 minutes.
So we could do it on the once a final interview has taken place, we would be ready to do that.
Yeah.
We could be ready to do that.
Right.
Okay.
My sense of it is that members do the interview and they know right away whether or not they're serious about forwarding a name. Yep. And they will compare it, and they may change their mind, but they won't make a decision based on the first interview and say, yeah, he or she's worth, you know, another look. And then they'll interview 5 more and they'll say, well, I thought they were worth a good look, but compared to the other candidates, I don't feel that way now.
Yeah, okay.
You know, my sense of it is it comes pretty quick.
Okay, good. So
okay, so we have those 2 dates scheduled. So you will get us the questions over the weekend. When is our next meeting going to be? Are we going to meet prior to the interviews, or is this our last meeting prior to the 14th?
However you want to handle it.
Okay.
I don't know. I would think that from after we get done with today, I think we're going to be ready for the 14th. I don't think we're going to need another one, but let's have everybody weigh in on that later.
Okay, I'm just thinking so that way we can select the questions that everyone wants to, you know, ask, to make sure that everyone's question that they want is on the list. I mean, I know that we can review those. We don't necessarily have to vote to approve those questions. So I guess if everyone has a chance to review them prior to the 14th, and then share any concerns, right, via an email to Pat to let him know if there's something that you want changed. So that way
Yep.
we can all look at the, you know, the final document prior to the interviews on the 14th. It's just my thought
Okay,
process.
good idea.
So we're all
You'll
gonna do
definitely
this
have them on
back-
the, you'll definitely have them this weekend.
Right.
But we'll put our comments back to Pat. Pat will consolidate all the comments and get them out, or how's that? Without the open
Yeah.
meeting laws, not being able to do reply all and all that.
Yeah, no,
Correct.
if you can just, like, if there's a question that you want, or if you want it massaged, if you can send it to Pat.
To Pat.
Then he can take it, yeah, and he and Rick can work on putting it in a document, and
Yep.
that's fine. As long as we're not emailing back and forth about anything we're going to vote on, we're not gonna take a formal vote on the final questions, correct?
No.
So that's fine.
Okay.
But thank you, that's a good question.
And for those of you who are concerned about the candidates picking up the questions, if they could follow this conversation and figure out what the questions are, hire them right away.
There's someone we wanna hire, right?
They can sit through this. I agree. Area 58 video.
Hey, this has been pretty quick. I don't know about your meetings, but I've had some.
So that is a good question.
Much more
Just to recap a little bit, so you're going to send the question, you're going to create the master questions.
Yep.
Patrick's going to send them out.
Yep.
Yep.
And then if you have a question, Roger, you can.
You're gonna work directly
You're
with
gonna
Patrick.
Work direct with Patrick.
Yep.
And, you know, massage that back and forth with him. It might be, he might, at the very end, send out another master's, you know, question
Exactly.
to
Yes.
everybody to go,
Yep.
this is what we all decided based on what's in, and
Yep.
I think we just got to accept that I'm gonna have some questions I like, and you're gonna have some questions you like, and it is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, it just, no sense
Yep.
voting about it, just, but, you know, we got the chairman and the vice chairman and the consultant, and we'll get it right.
And honestly, if you leave yourself enough room for follow-up questions, even if one of the questions you wanted to talk about isn't on there, you can find a way to ask it in a follow-up question.
Yep.
Are there any procurement to prevent us from asking a follow-up question?
No,
So, I mean, it can be a different follow-up question to each
right.
candidate? And it doesn't matter?
Right. So
Okay.
the law is pretty specific. You can't ask candidates personal questions. But everybody wants a feel for who the candidates are and what they are. So, you know, one follow-up question I was suggesting that you could do after someone answers a question about, you know, what their management style is and how they work. You can basically say, you know, you put a lot of work into this. You're a pretty intense person. You know, what's your work-life balance like? How do you manage the stress of the position? And then they can tell you, you know, I go skydiving on Saturdays and golf on Sundays and beat my wife, you know, before I go to work on Monday. And then you can ask more questions based on what they open up and what they tell you about it. And you can say, well, what is it you like about skydiving? Why do you, that's unusual.
Yeah.
I've never seen any, I don't know anybody who does that as a hobby. What is it that makes you thrilled about it? But you couldn't ask them, you know, do you do skydiving, because it's a personal question. You can't ask them if they're married or if they have kids. But, you know, I also do a lot of coaching with the candidates. And I tell them if they're comfortable, the more they can share with the committee about who they are, what they are, and what makes them tick, the more they can connect with them. And they'll say, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, if you're proud of your kids and they just won an award, you know, beam and tell them that at the end of it. It gives them a sense of who you are. But, you know, you can't specifically ask it.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that thought process? Okay. All right, so we picked the scheduled meeting dates. I'm assuming we'll be sending us like an outline of who we're interviewing at what time, so we'll have that
I will give you a schedule.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word schedule. I apologize.
That's all right. I also never name the candidates. I refer to them as numbers.
Okay,
And I ask when you do the minutes, even in an executive session, that you don't refer to the candidates by their name, but by their number.
okay,
That way, you know, everybody gets protected. Because the finalists, you know, once we get their permission, will be public, but the other ones have to go back and face their employer.
right. Okay, so yeah, so we just use the number that's on the sheet. Okay,
Yeah, we've got 29.
yep,
1 to 29.
yep. Okay, understood.
Both meetings are at the fire station?
No, the one Thursday is at the police station.
Then fire station, Saturday. Yep. And we have plenty of time to post those, so that's good. All right, so that brings us to any topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. Does anyone have anything they'd like to raise? Okay. Does anyone have any comments they would like to make? Okay, so with that, if someone would like to make a motion for us to enter into executive session, it needs to be stated as it is, the specific reason needs to be stated as it is written on the agenda. And we can choose to combine the motion to end open session to go to executive session, not to return to open session, or you can make a motion to go to executive session and then we can come back. I personally do the combination, that way it's one motion. And so if someone would like to do that.
I would make a motion that we adjourn into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A, Section 21A-8, to review town administrator applications with Grow White Consulting LLC personnel, since the chair declares that an open meeting will have a detrimental effect in retaining applicants, and to return to open session.
Oh, and not to return to open session in this
Sorry,
case. I apologize.
And not to return to open session.
Excellent. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, this vote needs to be a roll call vote. So if everyone can individually vote.
Kevin Tracy says aye.
Roger Shores, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye.
Ellen Blanchard, aye.
Mark Ruble, aye.
Rick Weston, aye.
Pat Maher, aye.
Okay, so the open session of the Town Administrator Screening Committee of March 6, 2024 has ended at 5:55 p.m. Thank you.